It has dropped. So of course we have less teachers. We have altered our delivery in child staff, like custodians no longer once a year. We may have similar numbers of folks, but they're greater part-time. So there's been some adjustments in that regard. What office downsizes in terms of admin. Also, the payroll, we have less staff there. So, yeah, absolutely. Our percentage of budget in terms of people pretty well remains constant. So, so as that funding is getting reduced, we are making staffing in a variety of areas. The only area that it hasn't dropped in staffing would be in the area of special ed. The number of folks working there, and it also receives kind of specific funding based on the number of special students, is pretty similar to even 5 or 7 years ago.
Thank you. Elijah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Happy with the 1996 grad class, which is still on the graph. So it feels good. What I've noticed between correlating the graph C enrollment and the in kindergarten and the graduation of the grade 12 students, I guess, or all of the students, is that any given year there's 50 to 100, over 100 students that we gain as children get older and as people move in. So Salmon Arm is growing, and we see that enrollment increase, and I'm assuming that's from in-migration towards our community, and that's something will continue to grow. I guess on our, we have to look at attracting young professionals and young families to live in Salmon Arm, which is always attractive, yet there are economic barriers to that. So my question really is that the school district has expanded their capacity, obviously for 19 member Bobby fighting for us for get out of our portables and expand our capacity so we didn't have to walk across the parking lots and go to school in these subpar conditions. And the other thing of having to define economic growth times, and which at birth rate, do we see that if we go to schools in the short term, are we going to be faced with that crunch in the future again? Is that possible if Salmon Arm faces large immigration and a sort of boom as we speak in the birth rate, economic birth rate from right now, which we're seeing prosperous economic times and lots of young people having many children? Is that a possible future is under capacity again?
Can I just say that back when you were in school, I remember a person coming into the district to talk about how Salmon Arm was going to boom town of the Okanagan, and that we would have ever. We would always be growing. We'd probably have to build new schools. Well, that hasn't come to happen yet. And yes, I mean, it can all turn around on us, and we will have to find different spots to put. But right now, this is what the resources that we've looked at say that we're going to still be going down. So we have to fit within that budget, and we have to work at trying to keep everything flowing. I mean, we need to have courses for kids to graduate. We need to have special, all kinds of things. I was a parent when we were school. I was fighting really hard and thinking. I became a trustee because I thought the school district, we couldn't go any lower in some of our programs. Well, every year we've cut because of declining enrollment. And so we've declined since I've been on. We haven't grown at all. So, I mean, and as soon as we start to grow, I'm sure we'll be doing our plan.
If I another question, which is, that's sort of what I've seen. I guess the delivery of education has changed a lot as well. With you've talked about special education assistants and different staff members in the classroom. Can we comment a bit on that, on how it affected your funding? Or increase your costs? Is that not a provincial more money for that kind of assistance? Or
certainly health and education are two key priorities for the government, and I mean, you see information on both those topics on almost a weekly basis. The focus on literacy, achievement, and education, measuring and doing a better job helping students be more effective in their careers, certainly a huge growth. So lots of good things happening in education. I think trustees are excited. And resources have come to help those. Careers would be a good example, although it's an important issue in this community. I mean, the SKIP and working with the college, it doesn't doesn't change very much in terms of the bricks and mortar buildings and what you need that you're doing inside the buildings. And so some good things happening there, same with literacy, in terms, again, focuses on doing a better job or a more diverse job of programs for students. Making sure this don't fall through the cracks, so focus on First Nations success. And funding has come, additional funding has come to help initiatives, and then there were issues around class size and support for class size, elementary class size. We have the small, some of the smallest, kindergarten group classes that school districts have seen in the last 3-4 years than they did in the previous 15. And so, that was a focus and a policy issue with government. And I expect those issues will carry on. It makes education, and not to overdo the word, but interesting and challenging as because it's important and will continue to be an important issue. Probably health, because of the aging population, the sense kind of on the big picture is health, no question, gets attention, then perhaps in education may get pushed a little bit in the back because less folks have child-age children. So I think there was lots of good things happening. There are resources come. Trustees, and I met even this government, you've put some programs in place. We don't think you've adequately funded them. So those issues will carry on. But in terms of the bigger demographic piece, it's those whether in Salmon Arm or West Province are really very firm. So growth, although it seems surprising that with growth that schools would talk about declining, you didn't realize that those demographics are provincial, and so folks can move around a bit, but it doesn't change the provincial demographics, and then school fees with them, so it creates the ongoing need to look long term, and then of course make adjustments as you review things every few years.
Yeah. And Salmon Arm is essentially is sort of a litmus test of changing demographics. Well, as always, I appreciate this demographic chart here, which shows the excess capacity in some of these schools, and obviously in Principal Harrison's school, looks like he's going to be facing a bit of a challenge. But he's the man for the job, so that'll be all right. But if we as a city densify our downtown and increase residential capacity within this area here, would the plan be to utilize the facilities at South Broadview and Hillcrest, and as we expand that way, would those be the facilities that the children downtown would be forced to bus at?
We still have the plan on reopening it. We still have the land, we still have the place, it's still on the plan, it's still very much on the forefront of our thoughts.
Okay, so my alma mater would come back into existence.
It seems to be that most of us around this table have done our part to populate the schools, and it's very obvious here. But Councillor Eliason's best point could be.
That's one of my things, like hurry up, grandchildren, in your case, hurry up. Your mother's waiting.
Councillor Kendall.
A couple of comments. One good thing is when the dollars get scarce, people look for more collaborative efforts like the joint UC and the school board has done. And so I think there's some really good things that come out of that. I was sitting here and wondering, how do you project for the increase when, we're being told that if we do certain things economically through economic development here in town, we could be in a whole lot more jobs. I'm thinking, how do you correlate that to or don't you plan cuts? You just go on your standard projections.